Welcome to the Rotary Times, a public service program presented by Rotary District 7610. Funding for this program is made possible by the generosity of Rotary District 7610, Virginia. On our programs, we talk with Rotarians and community leaders and discuss how Rotary International builds partnerships to local, national, and world communities. I'm your host, Rotarian Dr. Deborah Jackson from the Rotary Club of McLean, Virginia. The success of a Rotary Club is dependent on the Rotary Club president. They lead, inspire, motivate, and connect their clubs with communities and others locally and around the world. Joining me remotely is Rotarian Daisy Rojas, who is the president of the Rotary Club of Albemarle, I hope I said that correctly, Virginia, for the 22nd, 23rd Rotary year. Welcome, President Rotary, to the Rotary Times show.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure having you here. We always enjoy hearing what our presidents are doing, especially our new presidents, what they're doing in their clubs to fulfill their obligations during their upcoming leadership year. So congratulations also on being appointed the president. Let's start by talking to the audience about a little bit about your background. Why don't you give us about a minute of your life before Rotary?
Well, that's not too much time, but it's been busy. I started out as a career anthropologist, which is sort of a different trade. I worked in that field pretty much covering ethnography, people's stories, and really ways of being in the world. My focus was on minority experience. And then I also sort of worked on financial transactions, access to education, and micro businesses. From there, sort of a segue into philanthropy, and I was a career fundraiser for about 20 years, raised over $20 million during that period of time. And then most recently, I have switched careers and got into finance. So I'm a finance professional now, and sort of different, help people determine how to give their money, and now I'm helping people determine how to care for their finances. So
wonderful.
That's my professional background.
Well, you certainly are a match for Rotary, which does just what you talked about, supports by giving and nurturing communities. Talk about that then. How did you get involved with Rotary, and then how did you get involved with the Albemarle Club?
Yes, well, really my introduction to Rotary certainly did come through philanthropy. And, you know, for my personal life, I've enjoyed being, on multiple boards and doing volunteer projects. So it was really a natural fit to get involved with Rotary. And I'm very thankful for that introduction. I've only ever worked with the Albemarle Rotary Club, so I can't say what it might be like with other clubs, though I've certainly had plenty of interaction with other club members around Virginia. And really, I go to visit other Rotary clubs, even internationally, and have enjoyed my Rotary family. Mm-hmm. And so I think the philanthropy aspect, the volunteer, and the fellowship that comes along with Rotary has really fed my soul. Mm-hmm. And I'm very grateful to be a member of Rotary.
We're grateful to have you. You bring a lot of talent and gifts to your club and to District 7610. Talk about now your club. Tell us a little bit about your club, where it meets, how large it is. Give us some exciting background information on your club.
Sure. Well, the basics, we meet actually every 2 weeks. After COVID, we sort of changed our structure a little bit to make sure that people were able to get together. First, it was virtually, now in person again. We meet on the second and fourth Thursdays of the month. And we hold our board meetings every month on the second Thursday, immediately following our lunch meeting. And so that's the basics. I love my club because it's not too big and it's not too small. Mm-hmm. So we're just the right size, about 40 members, to go with whatever we're choosing to do each year. So everyone who comes to the club, of course, has their own interests, and we're able to sort of utilize those interests combined with our member skills to, work on whatever we're focused on for the year. So this year we have some interesting projects. We've just taken on a middle school interact club. So that's brand new this year. We are continuing to do our international projects. We're funding a WASH project in Guangaje, Ecuador. And we just had a presentation today about another water and sanitation project in Africa that I think our club is going to work on. We also do support several college scholarships. We've been doing that for more than 35 years. Recently won the Chancellor's Award from our local community college for being the longest standing donor to scholarships at Piedmont Community College. In addition to that, each year we choose a local charity that we provide funds to through our annual fundraiser. And so this year it was Loaves and Fishes Food Bank, which really
and we're going to talk to you a little bit more. I said we're going to talk to you a little bit more about those community service projects because they sound exciting.
Oh, there's plenty.
I know our members in our audience would love to hear more about those. So, but I'm going to take you a little bit in a little bit of a different direction from the community service. You mentioned that your service component, you have speakers and they sound like they are fabulous to ensure that your club is moving along effectively, and also that you do you do bulletins, newsletters to the community or to your membership? Or I know you mentioned fellowship activities. How about some of those? Are you on social media? Is that helping at all with getting things out for your club?
Well, you've sort of hit on one of the things I've taken on this year as president, and that's upgrading our technology.
Okay.
So we have started developing our social media more so than has been done in the past. Of course, COVID forced us to do some of those things since we were not able to meet in person for a while. So our virtual meetings were developed during COVID, the social media, including Facebook, and then we do have a digital newsletter that goes out among club members. I will say I've got to give kudos to Sherwin Terry, who is our program director, who brings in fabulous speakers to our club. Today we had an excellent topic on financial crimes, which was really quite interesting.
Yeah.
We've had other speakers talk to us about how the local news is made. We've talked about Alzheimer's, drugs that are being developed currently in research right now. Just so many interesting things. We've had illustrators and authors that have come and talked about, books that they're putting out. I can't say enough about our programming. It's really been fun. Every meeting, I learn something new.
Great. So you're feeding the needs of your membership, which is important as for clubs to continue to grow. Now let's go back to some of that community service that you had mentioned. What about one or two that you really think was absolutely one? I know you all just completed a fundraiser, but what about some of your community service activities?
Sure. So the food bank I mentioned is also a charity that we give to, but we do work with our food bank packing for families, and it's incredible the amount of food that we are able to put together to give to area families who really need fresh, healthy food. And so that's been something that we've done for years, working with Loaves and Fishes. And another project we did this summer was river cleanup by kayak. So that was really fun. Our members got the opportunity to go out in a kayak on the Rivanna River and clean up. And so I posted a funny photo on social media. We actually found the Charlottesville city limits sign in the river. So we know where we are now.
Sounds wonderful. Are there any new programs that you plan to present during your tenure as president?
Well, I did mention briefly the Interact middle school group. That's, I believe, the first middle school Interact in Central Virginia.
Wow.
So that's brand new. Our very first meeting is coming up next week. So working with the kids to kind of come up with what their service projects will be and sort of learning what Rotary is all about. That's very exciting. I think that's something really special to be able to bring that to young people and teaching them about citizenship and Rotary and our own community. So.
Wow.
That's really
I think
fun.
it's a wonderful way too when we think about it, because we have the high school interact, but to have the middle, you are putting a pathway in place to the high school and on then to Rotary and the adult club. So I think that is very special. Congratulations on that. My club has talked about that, but haven't quite acted on it. So thank you for forging ahead and acting on that. Talk about vocational service programs that your club might be involved.
Yes, we certainly are. When we talk about raising money for scholarships, some of that scholarship money actually does go to some programs locally. We have the Charlottesville Albemarle Technical Institute where there are career certificate programs. And we also have the Network to Work Career Readiness Program here in Charlottesville and Albemarle County. So we do contribute to both of those organizations, and that's also been a longstanding focus for our club.
How long have you all been doing that, and what's the age range of the students who participate?
Well, there's really not a limit on the age range because to participate in Network to Work and to participate in the K-Tech Learning Center, I don't believe there's a cap. There certainly isn't on Network to Work. You could come into Network to Work sort of as a second career, or perhaps you got laid off and you want to try something different, or just get your resume cleaned up and find someone else to work for. So there's not an age limit on that piece. We have been serving the K-Tech program for many years. I know because the scholarship is 35 years old for the community college, and that's associated with the K-Tech program. The Network to Work itself is not very old. I would say it's definitely under 10 years, and it might be around the 5-year mark since that's come to Central Virginia.
Wonderful. So you all are really making a difference when we look at career switchers and new pathways, as you just talked about. Following the pandemic, a lot of people taking advantage of some new opportunities. So thank you for working with your community to host some of those activities that help us to commit to our communities. How about internationally? Are you all involved in anything internationally?
We certainly are. We have what we call the Piedmont Council, where we work together with the 2 other local Rotary clubs to work on international projects together. And then just in the last couple years, when I came on the board, we sort of reinvigorated our own international set aside. So we have funded a program called, I think it's the WASH program for Guangaje, Ecuador. And that is bringing sanitation and water into a community where especially young women were sort of excluded from education because they just didn't have the sanitary supplies and water that was necessary to be able to attend school.
Gotcha. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back to talk more with President Daisy Rojas from the Albemarle County Rotary Club. I want to hear more about your partnerships with, organizations internationally. So stay tuned and stick with us.
Possibilities are all around us. We see potential in unexpected places. And when we share our knowledge, vision, and connections, we turn great ideas into action in communities all around the world. Together, we can make real change happen. We're Rotary. We are people of action. Get involved at Rotary.org.
Welcome back to the Rotary Times. We're here talking with Rotarian Daisy Rojas, who is the president of the Rotary Club of Albemarle County, Virginia, for the 2022 to 23rd Rotary year. We left what you were mentioning about a very special project or partnership that you all have with the club internationally. Tell us more about that.
Well, we have a couple. The first one I mentioned was the Guangaje Water Project, and the WASH Project, which actually is, I think, working on a global grant through Rotary International. And so that's very special to us as an individual club, helping that community to access resources and develop out their sanitation system within the community there so that all children and adults can participate in education, where previously they just did not have the facilities to have bathrooms and running water in the school. So we're going to supply that, and in addition we're also supplying sanitary items for girls to be able to attend school regardless of what's happening in their lives. As young girls mature, they do have needs, and they have not been able to attend school because of that without having the necessary sanitary supplies. So that's one project. Another one we've just introduced is actually spearheaded by a local UVA basketball player, Tunji Sorohe. And this is Just Help Africa program, also focused on getting water to a community that really spends quite a lot of time a day going to collect water just for basic needs within the household. So individuals in that community might spend a half a day walking to make sure that they have adequate water for their daily needs. So we're hopeful that we can raise the funds to make sure that that well is dug and that community no longer has to spend precious hours out of their day just to have water.
Wow. Well, with your background, I have no doubt you all will make that gift that you need to give to that community. So thank you for sharing. I'm sure there are other clubs that are listening right now who may reach out to you to ask how they can also partner with you on that initiative. Sounds
Absolutely.
like
Happy to work with anyone.
Absolutely. When you think about all the programs that you've just talked about or projects, which one has been the most special to you?
Well, that's hard to pinpoint. I really love everything that we do in Rotary. But I mean, I don't know if I could say most special, but definitely most fun. This past weekend, we actually held our annual Kids Swing fundraiser. And traditionally, that's been a golf tournament, but we decided to switch to pickleball. So that was pretty scary, but also really, really fun. And we ended up raising more funds than I expected. And we had a blast.
Great.
So I guess that I could say that's probably been the most fun so far. But in terms of special, I wouldn't have a favorite, I don't think. I think everything that we do is special and important in its own right, and really comes down to the people that we work with, whether it's each other, coming together to do good in the world, or if it's the people that we're working with to provide resources that they're lacking. As human beings, we all can understand what it's like to have difficulty. I myself lost my job during COVID. So I know how hard it is, to make it through. And just being part of this Rotary community is so special. Whether you're a Rotarian and you're doing the work, or whether you're on the receiving end of getting, the resources you need, that's the specialness of Rotary.
Wow. How does your family feel about your involvement in Rotary? Are they there as your cheerleader? Are they there right beside you volunteering?
Well, sometimes kicking and screaming. My husband's wardrobe is filled with several Rotary T-shirts, so he's forced to wear the uniform. My daughter actually attends the middle school where we've brought the Interact in,
nice.
So she's part of that group. And they come to lunch meetings once in a while. It's what mom does, so they know it's part of, we all have our own interests, and they know that Rotary is a big one for me. So my hope is that, as they become adults and, contributing citizens, that they'll want to be Rotarians as well.
Well, you just talked about a whole new classification of membership, family.
That's right.
How has the motto, service above self, help you in conducting your own business or your work-life balance? How does that work for you?
Well, I mean, I think I've always lived that motto. I grew up sort of in a family situation where that was definitely the focus. My grandfather was a leader in civil rights education, and sort of learning from him, what we are tasked with to help others and lift each other up. So sometimes you don't know if you're going to get what you need, but you know that you're doing the right thing. And what I've come to witness, from his work, his career, all the way down to mine, it's never been a bad decision to do for others.
Yes.
Sometimes it can feel like it's hard, but ultimately it all comes around. And I think, service above self is just the best way to live. And if I didn't know about Rotary, it would still be the best way to live.
Yeah.
I certainly feel like integrity is the basis of every business relationship. And in the long run, if that's what you are using, then those relationships will endure. We don't want to be a flash in the pan, and we don't want people to give bad press about us. So always to do the right thing,
To do the right thing.
as that's just the way to live our lives.
Yeah, thank you for that. How do you get your club members to also understand that the growth of the club is, beyond just a few, beyond the president? What do you do to ensure that you're getting new members, you're growing, you're mentoring, you're retaining those that are in the club? What do you do? How does that work in your club?
Well, I would say you need to actually flip that question. It's not so much about getting people to do things. It's more about finding out what's within someone that they can contribute happily. We all have talents and skills and value as human beings. And I think it's important in a leadership role to work with your club members, discover who they are and what motivates them. What do they care about? Because if you know what that is, it's not going to be hard at all to motivate them to participate and give from themselves what most interests them. And so that's sort of how the pickleball came about. A member was interested in doing it several years ago. It sort of percolated and the opportunity came along. And then, reaching out to my membership and saying, what is it that's exciting about this? And what would you be excited about doing? And that call to action is so much more motivating than to browbeat people and say, you must, you must, you must. And so I think we've been fortunate in our club to feel that each one of us has something valuable to contribute. And people will come up with ideas, and those ideas are never shot down. We think about everything together. And being sort of this dynamic group of, small enough that we can explore those ideas, and not too big that it's like going to take 10 years before you get to it. It's just a fortunate result of being able to, choose what we care about as individuals and honor that within each other.
Yeah.
Today's meeting, for example, there was not an empty seat in the room. Everybody was there. There were lots of guests. People were excited to learn at today's meeting and hear what the news is, what's coming up next. It's just a fun place to be. And I think we all have value as individuals, and tapping that is part of what we do as leaders.
Yeah. Do you have an onboarding program for your new members?
We do. I take prospective members out to lunch or coffee and have an individual conversation with them about Rotary, and again, sort of trying to find out what their interests are, what they might be interested in doing in Rotary, why it's interesting to them. So that's sort of the get to know you phase. And once they come in, we do provide information about the history of the club and what the current activities are. We ask them to think of things that they might be interested in doing or contributing, or how they'd like to interface with what we're doing, or maybe what they'd like to see us doing in the future. It's a little preliminary period. Of course, we do the letter, the 3-day, and then there's a couple of club meetings that they will be on the red badge before they are acknowledged with a blue badge, and we are welcoming them to the club. So, and I will say today, one of our new members, we do ask that every new member handle the raffle for us, which helps because as members come in the door, they get to know who that new person is. And, after a couple of meetings, we all know each other.
That's
so
right.
That's our process.
There you go. And you teach them how to that philanthropy piece with the travel bucket. So that's great to hear. Let's talk about Rotary in general. What are some ways you might say Rotary International can continue to reach out and bring in those new members? What suggestions would you give?
I mean, I definitely think that on an individual basis, looking at humans as individual people and what each of us have, as I sort of mentioned, flipping that requirement into an invitation. And then one of the things that I found really special is that Rotary International is a family beyond your own small little community. And, that's something that I've always shared with, prospective members is, look out around the cities and, the countries that you want to visit, find out where the Rotary clubs are, go to them. And you'll find that there are people welcoming you and inviting you to do interesting and new things that are definitely off the tourist track. You'll find out more about the community that you're going to from the Rotarians that you meet than you'll ever find out in the tourist literature.
Yeah.
So that's one really, I think, exciting feature about Rotary International. And the other thing is that wherever you go, if you're moving for career or for retirement, that you have a home wherever you go. So it's just such a nice, feature of Rotary. And you always have a place to go. You always have things to do. Your friendships are there ready for you.
Forever.
So I think that's really the winning ticket in terms of how do we grow Rotary International? How do we maintain Rotary International? Keep sharing that this relationship is there and available. And, how many different ways can you interact with the Rotary wherever you are in the world?
Well, thank you, President Daisy, for sharing yourself as well as your club with us today. We hope you'll come back and share even more in the future. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Funding for this program is made possible by the generosity of Rotary District 7610, Virginia. For the Rotary Times program, I'm your host, Rotarian Dr. Deborah Jackson from the Rotary Club of McLean, Virginia. You're welcome to join us at a Rotary Club in your area for either breakfast, lunch, dinner, or a service project. You can find a club near you by looking us up on the internet. Many clubs are hosting meetings in person, virtually, or in some hybrid format. You only need to look us up for details. Remember, our time is your time, and it's always time well spent. Please join us for our next program as we continue to celebrate Rotary's 117 years of service above self.